Arjun had been waiting for this evening for almost 2 months. Life had become so busy lately that meeting friends felt like a luxury he could not afford. Between his office deadlines and endless meetings, he barely had time to breathe. But tonight was different. Tonight, he had managed to bring together the people who mattered most to him under one roof. He stood in his kitchen, checking the food one last time. Everything had to be perfect. The biryani was ready, the kebabs were warm, and the dessert was chilling in the fridge. His apartment looked cleaner than it had in months. He had spent the entire morning scrubbing floors and arranging cushions, something he never usually cared about. His girlfriend Mira walked out of the bedroom, adjusting her earrings. She looked beautiful in her simple blue dress, and Arjun felt a familiar warmth spread through his chest. They had been together for almost 3 years now, and he still felt lucky every time he looked at her. "You look stressed," she said, walking over to him. "Relax. It's just dinner with friends, not a job interview." Arjun smiled, but the nervousness did not leave his face. "I know. I just want everything to go well. It's been so long since we all got together." Mira placed her hand on his cheek. "It will be fine. Stop worrying." The doorbell rang at exactly 7:30. Arjun opened the door to find his college friend Samir standing there with his wife Priya. Samir had not changed one bit since their university days. He was still the same loud, energetic person who could light up any room with his presence. Priya, on the other hand, was calm and composed. They balanced each other perfectly. "Brother!" Samir pulled Arjun into a tight hug. "Look at you, hosting fancy dinner parties now. When did you become so grown up?" Arjun laughed. "Come inside before you embarrass me in front of my neighbors." Priya hugged Mira like they were long-lost sisters. The four of them had spent countless weekends together before life got in the way. Seeing them all in his living room again made Arjun realize how much he had missed this. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Rohit, Arjun's oldest friend. They had known each other since childhood, growing up in the same neighborhood, attending the same school, sharing the same dreams. But Rohit looked different tonight. There was a tiredness in his eyes that Arjun had noticed ever since his divorce 6 months ago. Rohit's marriage had fallen apart slowly, like a building crumbling brick by brick. His wife had left him for someone else, and though Rohit never talked about it much, Arjun knew the wound was still fresh. Tonight, Arjun hoped being around friends would help him feel a little lighter. "You made it," Arjun said, pulling Rohit into a hug. "Of course I did. Free food. And good company. Why would I miss that?" Rohit's joke was followed by a smile, but Arjun could see through it. He made a mental note to check on his friend later, when they had a moment alone. The evening started beautifully. Everyone settled into the living room with plates full of food and glasses of cold drinks. Stories from the past began flowing like water. Samir reminded everyone about the time Arjun had tried to impress a girl in college by singing at a cultural fest, only to forget the lyrics halfway through. Priya shared how Samir had proposed to her in the most unromantic way possible, at a crowded bus stop, because he could not wait any longer. Laughter filled the apartment. For a few hours, it felt like time had rewound. All the stress of daily life seemed to disappear. Arjun watched his friends and felt grateful. These were the people who had seen him at his worst and still chose to stay. These were the bonds that mattered. Mira fit into the group effortlessly. She laughed at Samir's jokes, listened patiently to Priya's stories about her new job, and even managed to make Rohit smile genuinely a few times. Arjun felt proud watching her. She had this gift of making everyone around her feel comfortable. As the night went on, the conversation began to slow down. Plates were empty, and a comfortable silence settled over the room. That was when Priya suddenly clapped her hands together. "Let's play a game," she announced, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Samir groaned. "Not one of your boring games again." "It's not boring," Priya shot back. "Let's play 2 truths and 1 lie. Come on. We've all known each other for years. This should be fun. Arjun felt a small knot form in his stomach. He had never been a fan of games that required sharing personal things. He preferred keeping certain parts of his life private, even from close friends. But before he could say anything, Mira spoke up. That sounds like fun. I'm in. Rohit shrugged. Why not? I've got nothing to hide. Samir gave in as well, though he pretended to be annoyed. Arjun looked around at his friends. Everyone seemed excited. He did not want to be the one to ruin the mood. Maybe he was overthinking it. It was just a silly party game. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, he finally said. Let's do it. Priya explained the rules even though everyone already knew them. Each person would share 3 statements about themselves. 2 would be true, and 1 would be a lie. The others had to guess which one was the lie. Simple enough. Samir went first, sharing ridiculous facts that made everyone laugh. Priya followed with statements that surprised even her husband. Rohit's turn was emotional. He shared things about his failed marriage that he had never spoken about before. The room grew quiet for a moment, but then he cracked a joke and lightened the mood. Then it was Arjun's turn. He kept his statements safe and predictable. Everyone guessed his lie easily, and he felt relieved when the attention moved away from him. Finally, it was Mira's turn. She leaned forward slightly, a playful smile appearing on her face. Arjun recognized that look. It was the expression she wore when she was about to do something unexpected, something that would catch everyone off guard. Okay, here are mine, she said, her voice confident and clear. The room fell silent, waiting. 1. I once said no to a marriage proposal before I met Arjun. 2. I still talk to an ex who I almost ran away with years ago. 3. I have never said I love you to Arjun first. He always says it first. For a moment, nobody spoke. Arjun felt like someone had poured cold water over him. He stared at Mira, trying to read her face, trying to find some sign that she was just being clever for the game. But something in her eyes made his heart sink. The comfortable warmth of the evening suddenly felt distant. The laughter from minutes ago seemed like it belonged to a different night altogether. Arjun did not know it yet. But this game was about to change everything. The silence in the room felt heavy, like a thick blanket that nobody wanted to lift. Arjun sat frozen, his mind racing through the words Mira had just spoken. A marriage proposal she had rejected, an ex she still talked to, someone she had almost run away with. Each statement hit him like a punch to the chest. He looked at Mira, searching her face for answers. But she just sat there, with that same playful smile, as if she had said nothing unusual at all, as if she had not just dropped a bomb in the middle of their peaceful evening. Samir cleared his throat awkwardly. Well, that's certainly interesting. You really know how to make this game difficult, Mira. Priya laughed nervously, trying to ease the tension. Come on, let's guess. Which one is the lie? Arjun wanted to speak, but his throat felt dry. He picked up his glass of water and took a long sip, buying himself time. His hands were slightly shaking, and he hoped nobody noticed. Rohit, who had been quiet since Mira spoke, leaned back on the sofa. There was a knowing look in his eyes, the kind that comes from someone who has recently experienced betrayal himself. He did not say anything, but Arjun could feel his friend's silent support. I think the lie is the third one, Samir said, pointing at Mira. You definitely seem like someone who says I love you first. You're too confident to wait for someone else to say it. Mira tilted her head. Interesting guess. Priya, what do you think? Priya bit her lip, clearly uncomfortable. She glanced at Arjun briefly before answering. I'll say the second one is the lie. The ex thing. That sounds too dramatic to be real. Rohit? Mira turned to him. Your guess? Rohit shrugged slowly. I don't know you well enough to guess, but I've learned that people can surprise you in ways you never expect. His words hung in the air. Everyone understood what he meant, even if he did not say it directly. His own wife had surprised him in the worst possible way. He knew what hidden truths could do to a person. Finally, Mira looked at Arjun. What about you, baby? Which one do you think is the lie? Arjun met her eyes. For a moment, he forgot that there were other people in the room. It was just him and her, and the growing distance he suddenly felt between them. I don't know, he said quietly. You tell us. Mira laughed, but it sounded forced this time. Come on. That's not how the game works. You have to guess first. I said I don't know. Arjun's voice was calm but firm. So, just tell us. Which one is the lie? The room grew even more uncomfortable. Samir shifted in his seat. Priya stared at her hands. Rohit watched silently, his expression unreadable. Mira's smile faded slightly. She had not expected this reaction. She had expected laughter, playful arguments, maybe some teasing, not this cold silence from the man she loved. Fine, she said, trying to keep her tone light. The lie is the third one. I do say I love you first sometimes. You just don't remember. Because you're always too sleepy in the morning. She laughed again, hoping others would join. Samir forced a chuckle. Priya smiled weakly. But Arjun did not react. Because if the third one was the lie, that meant the other two were true. A marriage proposal she had rejected. An ex she still talked to. Someone she had almost run away with. All true. Arjun felt something shift inside him. It was not anger. Not yet. It was confusion. Disbelief. He had been with Mira for 3 years. They had talked about everything. Their childhoods, their fears, their dreams. He thought he knew her completely. But now, he realized there were entire chapters of her life she had never shared with him. Why? Why had she kept these things hidden? And why was she revealing them now, in front of everyone? Like it was some kind of joke. Arjun, you okay? Samir's voice broke through his thoughts. Yeah. Arjun nodded slowly. Just tired. I think. Long day at work. Nobody believed him. But nobody pushed either. The mood in the room had changed completely. The warmth from earlier was gone, replaced by an awkwardness that made everyone uncomfortable. Priya stood up suddenly. I think we should get going. It's getting late. And Samir has an early meeting tomorrow. Samir looked confused for a second, then caught on. Right. Yes. Early meeting. Very important. Arjun did not argue. Part of him wanted his friends to stay, to fill the silence with their chatter so he would not have to face Mira alone. But another part of him needed them to leave. He needed answers, and he could not get them with an audience. Rohit was the last to get up. He walked over to Arjun and placed a hand on his shoulder. Call me if you need anything, he said quietly. I mean it. Arjun nodded. Thanks, brother. The goodbyes were quick and awkward. Hugs were shorter than usual. Promises to meet again soon sounded hollow. Within minutes, the apartment was empty, except for Arjun and Mira. The door closed with a soft click, and the silence returned. Mira began collecting the empty glasses from the table, acting as if nothing had happened. That was fun. We should do this more often. Arjun watched her move around the room. Mira, the biryani was a hit. Did you see how much Samir ate? I thought he would finish the entire pot. Mira, she kept talking, kept avoiding. And Priya was so funny tonight. That story about her boss was hilarious. I almost choked on my drink. Mira, stop. She finally stopped. Her back was turned to him, and for a moment, she did not move. Then, slowly, she turned around to face him. What? Her voice was defensive now. You know what? Arjun stood up from the sofa. What was that? During the game? It was just a game, Arjun. That's the whole point. You say things to confuse people. But 2 of those things were true. You admitted it yourself. Mira crossed her arms. So what? Everyone has a past. You knew I had relationships before you. I knew you dated other people. I didn't know you almost ran away with someone. I didn't know you still talk to him." The word him came out sharper than Arjun intended. He was not trying to accuse her. He just wanted to understand. But his voice betrayed the hurt he was trying to hide. Mira sighed. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is." "Am I?" 3 years, Mira. We've been together for 3 years. And I'm finding out about this now? In front of our friends? Through a party game?" She looked away, her jaw tightening. "I didn't think it mattered. It was a long time ago. Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because there was nothing to tell." "Nothing to tell?" Arjun took a step closer. "You almost left everything behind for someone else. You still keep in touch with him. And you think that's nothing?" Mira's eyes flashed with frustration. "I stayed, didn't I? I didn't go with him. I'm here. With you. That should be enough." Arjun shook his head slowly. "It's not about whether you stayed or left. It's about honesty. It's about trust. How am I supposed to believe you're fully here with me when there's a whole part of your life you've been hiding?" Mira opened her mouth to respond. But no words came out. For the first time that night, she looked uncertain. The confidence she always carried seemed to crack. Just a little. Arjun waited. He wanted her to say something, anything, that would make this feeling go away. But she just stood there, arms still crossed, eyes avoiding his. The apartment felt colder now. The leftover food sat untouched on the table. The fairy lights Arjun had hung up for the party twinkled softly, a cruel reminder of how different this night was supposed to be. He had planned everything so carefully. The food, the decorations, the guest list. He had wanted this evening to be perfect, a happy memory with the people he loved most. Instead, he was standing in his living room, looking at his girlfriend like she was a stranger. And the worst part was, he did not know what to do next. Arjun did not sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Mira slept beside him. He could tell from her breathing that she was awake too, but neither of them spoke. The silence between them was louder than any argument could have been. His mind kept replaying her words from the game. An ex she almost ran away with. Someone she still talked to. Every time he closed his eyes, those sentences echoed in his head, like a song stuck on repeat. He wanted to shake her awake and demand answers, but he also feared what those answers might be. When morning came, Arjun got out of bed before the sun was fully up. He made himself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the city slowly wake up. The streets below were quiet. A few early morning joggers passed by. A stray dog searched for food near the garbage bins. Everything looked so normal, so ordinary. But nothing felt normal anymore. Mira walked into the kitchen an hour later. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She poured herself some tea and sat across from him at the small dining table. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Mira broke the silence. "Are you going to stay angry forever?" Arjun looked at her. "I'm not angry. I'm hurt. There's a difference." She wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "I didn't mean for it to come out like that. It was stupid. I just wanted to make the game interesting. By revealing secrets you've been hiding from me for 3 years?" Mira flinched at his words. "I wasn't hiding anything. I just didn't think it was important enough to bring up." Arjun set his cup down slowly. "Tell me about him." "Arjun, please." "No, I need to know. Who is he? What happened? Why do you still talk to him?" Mira closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength. When she opened them again, there was a vulnerability Arjun had rarely seen before. "His name is Kabir," she began quietly. "We were together for 4 years. I met him in college, during my first year. He was a senior, confident, and charming. Everyone wanted to be around him, and somehow, he chose me." Arjun listened without interrupting. His chest felt tight, but he needed to hear this. "We were serious," Mira continued. "Really serious. We talked about marriage, about building a life together. My parents loved him. His parents loved me. Everyone assumed we would end up together. What happened? Mira took a deep breath. He got a job offer, a big one, in London. It was his dream opportunity, and he asked me to come with him. Arjun felt his stomach drop. And you said yes? I said I would think about it. But inside, I had already decided. I was ready to leave everything behind. My family, my friends, my career. All of it. For him, the words hung in the air between them. Arjun tried to imagine Mira packing her bags, booking a flight, preparing to start a new life with someone else. It felt unreal, like hearing a story about a stranger. I even bought a ticket, Mira admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. One way to London. I didn't tell anyone. I was just going to disappear. Why didn't you go? Mira looked down at her hands. The night before I was supposed to leave, my mother called me. She was crying. My father had been rushed to the hospital. Heart attack. The doctors said it was serious. Arjun remembered Mira mentioning her father's health issues. He had survived, but his heart was weak. He needed constant care now. I couldn't leave, Mira said. Not like that. Not when my family needed me. So I stayed. I told Kabir I couldn't go. He was angry. He said I was choosing my family over him. We fought, and then he left. Alone. The room fell silent again. Arjun processed everything she had told him. Part of him felt sympathy for what she had gone through. Choosing between love and family was never easy. But another part of him could not ignore one crucial detail. You said you still talk to him. Mira nodded slowly. Sometimes, not often. Maybe once every few months. Why? Because he was a big part of my life. Because ending things doesn't mean erasing someone completely. We don't talk about anything deep. Just casual things. How's work? How's life? That's it. Arjun stood up and walked to the window. He needed distance, even if it was just a few feet. Does he know about me? Does he know? Yes. He knows I'm with someone. And does he still have feelings for you? Mira hesitated. That hesitation told Arjun everything he needed to know. He's made comments, she admitted. Sometimes he says things like he misses what we had, that he wishes things had been different. But I never encourage it. I never respond to those messages. Ever. Arjun turned to face her. But you don't stop talking to him either. Mira's eyes filled with tears. I know how this looks. But I swear, there's nothing between us. Not anymore. He's just someone from my past. A past you never told me about. Because I was scared. A tear rolled down her cheek. I was scared that if you knew, you would look at me differently. You would think I was the kind of person who runs away from problems, who almost abandoned her family for a guy. Arjun felt his anger softening, but the hurt remained. I wouldn't have judged you, Mira. I love you. I would have understood. Would you have? She wiped her tears. Because right now, you're looking at me like I'm a stranger. The words stung because they were true. Arjun did feel like he was seeing a different person. The Mira he knew was open and honest. The Mira sitting in front of him had kept a major chapter of her life hidden for years. I need time, he said finally. To process all of this. Mira nodded, though more tears fell from her eyes. I understand. Arjun grabbed his jacket and keys. He needed to get out of the apartment, to breathe fresh air, to think clearly, without her presence clouding his judgment. Where are you going? Mira asked, her voice small. For a walk. I'll be back. He did not wait for her response. He walked out the door and took the stairs instead of the elevator, needing the physical movement to burn off some of the emotions swirling inside him. Outside, the morning sun was bright and warm. People hurried past him on their way to work. Auto rickshaws honked impatiently. Street vendors set up their stalls. Life moved on around him as if nothing had happened. Arjun walked without any destination in mind. He found himself at a small park near his apartment. The same park where he and Mira had spent countless Sunday mornings. He sat on a bench and watched children playing on the swings. His phone buzzed. A message from Rohit. "How are you holding up? Call me if you need to talk." Arjun stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. "She told me everything. I don't know what to feel." Rohit's reply came quickly. "Come over. I'll make tea. Sometimes it helps to talk." Arjun looked back at his apartment building in the distance. Mira was up there, probably still crying, probably wondering if she had ruined everything. And honestly, Arjun was wondering the same thing. He loved her. That had not changed. But love alone was not enough. Trust was the foundation of everything. And right now, that foundation had cracks he was not sure could be repaired. He stood up from the bench and started walking toward Rohit's place. He needed a friend right now, someone who understood what it felt like when the person you loved turned out to be different from who you thought they were. The conversation with Mira was not over. Not even close. But for now, Arjun needed space to figure out what he truly wanted, and whether he could ever look at her the same way again. Rohit's apartment was smaller than Arjun's, but it felt warmer somehow. Maybe it was the old furniture that had stories attached to each piece. Maybe it was the faint smell of incense that always lingered in the air. Or maybe it was just Rohit himself, a man who had seen enough pain to understand it in others without needing many words. Arjun sat on the worn-out sofa while Rohit made tea in the kitchen. Neither of them spoke for a while. The only sounds were the clinking of cups and the whistle of the kettle. It was a comfortable silence. The kind that exists only between old friends. Rohit came back with 2 cups of steaming chai and handed one to Arjun. He sat down on the chair across from him and took a slow sip. "So," Rohit said finally. Arjun nodded. "His name is Kabir. They were together for 4 years. She almost moved to London with him. Bought a ticket and everything." Rohit raised his eyebrows but said nothing. He just listened. Her father had a heart attack the night before she was supposed to leave. That's why she stayed. Not because she chose to. Because she had to. Arjun's voice cracked slightly on the last words. That was the part that hurt the most. Mira had not stayed because she realized Kabir was wrong for her. She had stayed because circumstances forced her to. If her father had not gotten sick, she would have been gone. She would have built a life with someone else. Arjun would have never even met her. Their entire relationship suddenly felt like an accident. A backup plan. A second choice. Rohit set his cup down carefully. "And she still talks to him?" "Sometimes. She says it's casual. Just checking in. But he still has feelings for her." She admitted that much. "Does she have feelings for him?" Arjun paused. That was the question he had been avoiding in his own mind. "She says no. She says she loves me. But how am I supposed to believe that when she's been hiding this for 3 years? Rohit leaned back in his chair. His eyes had that faraway look, the one he got when he was thinking about his own failed marriage. "You know what destroyed my marriage? It wasn't that she fell in love with someone else. It was that she lied about it. For months. She looked me in the eyes every single day and pretended everything was fine." Arjun looked at his friend. He knew this story, but hearing it again in this moment felt different. It felt like a warning. "The lying is what kills you," Rohit continued. "Because once you find out, you start questioning everything. Every smile, every kiss, every 'I love you.' You wonder if any of it was real. And that doubt, it eats you alive." Arjun felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them away quickly. "So what do I do?" "I can't tell you that, brother. Only you can decide. But what would you do? If you were in my place?" Rohit was quiet for a long moment. He stared at the window, watching the sunlight filter through the dusty curtains. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "I would ask myself one question. Does she make my life better or worse? Not in this moment, because right now, everything hurts. But overall, when I think about the past 3 years, was I happier with her or without her? Arjun thought about it. He thought about the Sunday mornings in the park, the late-night conversations, the way Mira laughed at his terrible jokes, the way she held his hand during scary movies, even though she pretended to be brave. The way she remembered small details about his life that even he forgot. She had made his life better. There was no denying that. But did that erase the lies? Did happiness justify dishonesty? There's something else you need to consider, Rohit added. Why did she hide it? Was it because she wanted to deceive you? She said she was scared, that I would judge her. And would you have? Arjun opened his mouth to say no, but then stopped. Would he have judged her? If Mira had told him on their first date that she almost ran away with an ex, would he have pursued her? If she had mentioned 6 months into their relationship that she still texted Kabir occasionally, would he have been okay with it? He wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe he was the kind of man who could accept someone's past without judgment. But he was not sure. Rohit seemed to read his thoughts. We all want to believe we're understanding and open-minded. But the truth is, the past scares us. We want to believe we're the only chapter in someone's story. Finding out we're not, that there were others before us who mattered just as much, that's hard to swallow. So you're saying I should forgive her? I'm saying you should try to understand her. Forgiveness can come later. But first, you need to see things from her side. She made a choice years ago to stay. She chose her family. She chose responsibility. And somewhere along the way, she met you. Maybe you were not her first love. But that doesn't mean you're not her true love. The words hit Arjun harder than he expected. He had been so focused on feeling like a second choice that he had not considered the other side. Mira had given up her chance at a different life. She had let go of someone she loved deeply. That must have been painful too. And then she had found Arjun. She had built something new with him, something real. But she had also kept secrets. And that was the part Arjun could not get past. I don't know if I can trust her again, he admitted. Every time she tells me something now, I'll wonder if it's the whole truth. Rohit nodded slowly. Trust is like glass. Once it breaks, you can glue it back together. But the cracks will always be there. The question is whether you can live with those cracks. Arjun finished his tea. It had gone cold, but he barely noticed. His mind was spinning with too many thoughts. Part of him wanted to go home and hold Mira tight. Part of him wanted to pack his bags and disappear for a while. His phone buzzed. I'm sorry. Please come home. We need to talk. He stared at the screen for a long time. Rohit watched him silently. What does she say? Rohit asked. She wants me to come home. Are you going to? Arjun put the phone back in his pocket. Not yet. I need more time. Rohit nodded. That's fair. But don't take too long. Silence can be just as damaging as lies. If you shut her out completely, you might lose her for real. Arjun stood up and walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. Thanks, Rohit. For listening. For not telling me what to do. Rohit smiled sadly. That's what friends are for. Just remember, nobody's perfect. Not her. Not you. The question is, whether your imperfections can coexist. Arjun stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun. The world looked the same as it did yesterday. The same buildings, the same roads, the same noise. But everything felt different now. He started walking, not toward home, but in no particular direction. He needed more time to think, more time to decide what kind of man he wanted to be, the loving boyfriend who forgave and moved forward, or the hurt man who walked away to protect himself. Both choices had consequences. And right now, Arjun was not ready to face either one. So he kept walking, one step at a time, hoping that somewhere along the way, the answer would find him. Arjun walked for hours that day. His feet carried him through streets he had never seen before, past small shops selling vegetables, past children playing cricket in narrow lanes, past old men sitting on plastic chairs, sipping tea and discussing politics. The city moved around him like a river, and he was just a stone, being carried along by the current. By the time the sun began to set, his legs were aching and his mind was exhausted. He found himself standing outside a small temple he did not recognize. The evening prayers were just beginning. The sound of bells and chanting drifted through the open doors. Without thinking, Arjun walked inside. He was not a particularly religious man. He visited temples on festivals and family occasions, but he had never felt a deep spiritual connection. Yet tonight, standing in the dim glow of oil lamps, surrounded by the smell of incense and flowers, he felt something shift inside him. He closed his eyes and tried to pray, but no words came. Instead, memories flooded his mind. The first time he saw Mira at a friend's birthday party, the nervous way he had asked for her number, their first date at a small coffee shop where they talked for 5 hours straight, the night he told her he loved her and she had cried happy tears. 3 years of moments, 3 years of building something together. Could all of that be erased by one night of revelations? Arjun opened his eyes and looked at the idol in front of him. It stared back with a calm, unchanging expression. No answers there. Only silence. He left the temple as the prayers ended and started walking home. The streetlights flickered on one by one, casting long shadows on the pavement. His phone had been buzzing in his pocket all day. Messages from Mira. Missed calls from Samir and Priya checking in. He had ignored all of them, but he could not ignore them forever. When Arjun reached his apartment building, he stood outside for a long time. He looked up at the window of his flat. The lights were on. Mira was still there, waiting for him. He took a deep breath and walked inside. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. With each floor that passed, his heart beat a little faster. He still did not know what he was going to say. He still did not know what he wanted. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. Mira was sitting on the sofa, her knees pulled up to her chest. She looked small, fragile, nothing like the confident woman who had played that game last night. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. When she saw him, she stood up immediately. Arjun. Her voice was hoarse. I thought you weren't coming back. He closed the door behind him. I needed time. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She started crying again. The tears fell freely down her cheeks, and she made no effort to wipe them away. Arjun felt his chest tighten. He hated seeing her like this. Despite everything, he hated seeing her in pain. He walked over to her slowly. For a moment, they just stood there, facing each other, so close, yet feeling miles apart. I talked to Rohit, Arjun said quietly. Mira nodded, waiting. He said something that stuck with me. He said nobody's perfect, that the question is whether our imperfections can coexist. Mira's lower lip trembled. And? What do you think? Arjun looked into her eyes. Those same eyes that had captivated him from the very first day. Those same eyes that had kept secrets from him for 3 years. I think you should have told me. A long time ago. I think I deserve to know about Kabir. About your past. About the fact that you still talk to him. I know, Mira whispered. I know I should have. I was a coward. You were scared. I understand that now. But Mira, relationships can't survive on fear. They need honesty. Even when the truth is ugly. Even when it's hard to say. I want to. Mira reached out and took his hands in hers. Her fingers were cold and trembling. I'll tell you everything. Anything you want to know. No more secrets. I promise. Arjun squeezed her hands gently. I'm going to ask you one question, and I need you to answer honestly. no matter how much it hurts. She nodded, her eyes filled with fear and hope in equal measure. Do you still have feelings for him? For Kabir? The question hung in the air like smoke. Mira did not answer immediately. She looked down at their joined hands, and Arjun could see her struggling with the words. A part of me will always care about him, she said finally. He was my first love. You don't forget that. But caring about someone and being in love with someone are different things. She looked up at him, her gaze steady now. I'm not in love with Kabir. I haven't been for years. The reason I kept in touch with him was because letting go completely felt like erasing a part of my own history. But I see now that holding on to the past was hurting my present. Hurting us. Arjun listened carefully. He searched her face for any sign of dishonesty, any flicker of doubt. But all he saw was raw, painful truth. If you want me to stop talking to him completely, I will, Mira continued. I'll block his number, delete his messages, whatever it takes, because you matter more to me than any memory ever could. Arjun let out a long breath. He had not realized how tightly he had been holding it. I'm not going to ask you to erase your past, he said. That's not fair to you, but I am going to ask you to be honest with me from now on. About everything, even the things you think I don't want to hear. Mira nodded quickly. I will. I promise. And if Kabir ever crosses a line, if he says anything inappropriate, you tell me. We deal with it together. As a team. Yes. Absolutely. I swear. Arjun pulled her into his arms. She buried her face in his chest and sobbed. He held her tightly, feeling her body shake against his. His own eyes were wet now too, though he did not let the tears fall. They stood like that for a long time. Two imperfect people holding on to each other in an imperfect world. When they finally pulled apart, Mira looked at him with something like wonder. You're staying? Arjun nodded. I'm staying. But things need to change. We need to be better. Both of us. I'll do whatever it takes. He wiped the tears from her cheeks with his thumb. No more party games that involve revealing deep secrets. Okay? A small laugh escaped her lips. It was shaky and wet, but it was a laugh. Deal. Arjun smiled for the first time in what felt like days. The hurt was still there. The doubt had not completely vanished. But underneath all of that, there was something stronger. Love. Real, messy, complicated love. They ordered food that night because neither of them had the energy to cook. They sat on the sofa eating biryani from takeout containers and talking, really talking, about fears and insecurities and things they had never said out loud before. It was not a perfect conversation. There were awkward pauses and difficult admissions, but it was honest. And that was what mattered. As the night grew late and tiredness finally caught up with them, Arjun looked at Mira, sleeping beside him. Her face was peaceful now. The worry lines smoothed away. He did not know what the future held. He did not know if the cracks in their relationship would fully heal. But he knew one thing for certain. He was willing to try. And sometimes, that was enough.